Welcome, everybody, to another captivating episode of the Sacred Travel Podcast. Today, we are going to be exploring the region of Zanskar and Ladakh and its role in the teachings of Shamballa with my guest, Olivier Ciais from Soul of Earth. Olivier's world is pervaded by love and action in all forms. Applied spirituality and inspired action, meditation, music, and writing. Care of the earth, standing wholeheartedly for the coming ones, including as a father and former school teacher. He spent a good part of his life asserting the view of interdependence, the beauty of nature, cosmos, through music, scientific, astrophysics, and cosmology study and lectures, and facilitating from primary to permaculture schools to transformative spaces. His path has crossed from very early exoteric and esoteric Christianity, Sufism, and Vedic traditions. Yet it is essentially through Tibetan Vajrayana Buddhism, Aurobindo's integral yoga, and the yoga of synthesis as pervading the works of Helen Blavatsky, Nicholas and Helena Roerich, and Alice Bailey, and for the last decade, Bruce Lyon, that he felt home. He feels in Soul of Earth, a network for agents for a new civilization and a reference point of creativity, the assertion of the existence of the soul as the primordial ingredient of the dawning civilization. From the depth of the unknowable at its core to the radiant and loving consciousness, soul arising inner and outer worlds, to the landing of this principle into a tender gesture on the cheek of a child, a song, an essay, a dance, or souvenirs of the future like food forests and organic buildings. A love story between space, soul, and soil that manifested in heaven for soul-based education and permaculture design over his hometown of Nice in the southeast of France, and ignites a newer land project centered on meditation closer to the mountains. His stand is dedication to the earth, its evolution, the soul's ability to birth and renewal beauty everywhere it looks and acts, and through Soul of Earth, playing his fullest part in a soul revolution, reinventing life on Earth. Welcome, Olivier. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. And your bio just reads like an entire poem itself. So it's beautiful.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel the land that is behind you is also like a kind of geographic poetry, so I would be really glad to share with you around it.
Definitely. When I was looking for, pictures, because I love to have a picture of the background for those who are watching on YouTube, it really is like these, it looks like paintings, just beautifully crafted creativity by the master gods themselves in the landscape. So you have traveled and explored this high vibrational place and also very sacred landscape many times. Take us on a journey. Why is the region so sacred?
I feel a reason is somehow buried in even below this incarnation, I feel, because really, even really as a young kid, as a young teenager, when I fell into my first readings of the Dalai Lama and Introduction to Tibetan Buddhism, there was such a strong call that was like feeling home, actually. And there was this longing to be back there somehow. And eventually, like some 10 years after, with my Amandine, who was to become my wife, we just felt like going to Tibet was obvious. It was such a call, and at that period of time, Tibet was closed to outsiders, and uh, and so we headed to India. And on the Lonely Planet cover, there was an image from the main Gompa of Leh, Tsemo Gompa, and it was a shock. Actually, it was wow. It is there, and there was such a call, I already felt my whole energetic system already merging with the land, even from the distance. And so we left with a book from Aurobindo and a few ones from the Dalai Lama, and we left, and we arrived up there. And what I can share with arriving here and descending from a path, we just stopped the car and went out. And there we are so tiny. We are just like extremely small compared to the scale of each hill, each mountain. But there is such a refined beauty and this little white villages that feels like the alive expression of Tibetan culture. I just whipped my whole soul out. And it was like, oh, finally, I'm back home and I can dissolve into this land. And that was in 2004. And until 2012, we journeyed again and again because couldn't stop the love story.
Mm. I can feel that. Yeah, how such a homecoming, like what it does to your entire nervous system and to your entire body. So you also continued exploring and going back like to the region over time. What do you feel is the main medicine that is stored in the soil, in the rock, in the waters of this piece of earth?
I feel there is a really beautiful symbol of it just behind you. This is the place where the Indus River is flowing from the Mount Kailash directly westward into Ladakh and is meeting the Zanskar River that arises right behind you. So
Wow.
two things I would share is like symbolically, there is this kind of merger of what we could call radical and evolutionary awakenings. So this kind of sparkle of Satori or Zazen or whatever, this kind of innate realization available at any time of the radical awakening, but also this gradual process of unfolding more and more as this one life that we are, which is evolutionary awakening. I feel they merge beautifully there because there is a mixture of traditions from Kashmiri to various kind of Buddhism to Bonpo. And I feel the whole fragrance of the spiritual path is available and lived still very alive there. And going into what flows from Kailash, I feel there is this beautiful mixture of two streams, one coming from the Gobi Desert and Mongolia, and one coming from Kailash in the kingdom of Guge, that met and merged and co-founded the kingdom of Ladakh and Zanskar. So which means exoterically or esoterically, it is somehow a kind of founded through the energy of what we call Shamballa. So that brings this idea of Beyoul, this kind of sacred hidden lands that would be preserved in for certain amount of times to reemerge when time is ripe. And so I feel there is some kind of preserved beauty, preserved past, preserved secrets that are alive here, including the presence of great masters like, not so far away from there, Guru Padmasambhava, the Vajrayana Buddhism, and of course Naropa, who founded the Golden Rosary lineage, which is about which includes a lot this idea of revealing the treasure that are held in a rock, on a cave, on a lake, in a river. So having this interaction with the earth that is a stream of revelation, and that is like evolution itself, but that includes at the same time this kind of beautiful interplay we have with the masculine and feminine energy. It's a lay path. It's not a monastic path in a cave. It can be, but it's also really inclusive of this idea of sacred family and the children too. So that is what calls me when I arrive in the village. There is like all these kids, whether they are little monks or not, etc. And all this beauty of wholeness, like my spirit can just dissolve into the mystery of this place. My soul is just amazed by the light and the understanding, the kind of cartography of the land. And my body, my father is just like vibrating with the tenderness of the contact with everything that is embodied in this life. So I feel it has definitely, it also, to conclude, is linked also with this idea of how the idea of Shambhala came also. At one moment, there was apparently at the same time the transmission from the Shakyamuni Buddha around the Prajnaparamita Sutra. Void is form is void, and we know the rest, gate gate. But at the same time, he would have been in a tantric form, giving to the king Suchandra of Shambhala the Kalachakra Tantra. and which is basically around the king asking a way, a means of realization without leaving his kingdom that he wanted to take care of, without leaving his family. So being really into such a kind of, can I fully realize myself in the midst of the world? And that also, like, I feel is deeply vibrating in me. It recalls me things from between Krishna and Arjuna. Yes, what flows westward from Kailash is a really demanding path. Realization in the world is a demanding path, but it has also some treasures that, some treasures of wholeness, some deep challenges and revelation that I feel is such a unique path that I feel is really alive, pure and alive in Ladakh even right now.
Wow, thank you. I can really feel the energy coming from, your words and between the lines. And also, I really love how you speak to this inner and outer expression and how oftentimes the landscape that we traverse is a mirror of the inner landscape. And just like, yeah, when we walk this hall of mirrors, what we are able to retrieve. And there might be listeners who are not so familiar, with the teachings of Shambhala. So I would love for you to to briefly explain the concept of what is Shambhala, or what are the main teachings.
Oh, that's a big one.
I know.
I can only speak from somehow my own limited understanding and my own perception of it. I would first of all make a link between what I would call like somehow the energetic or esoteric Shambhala. And to me, a great explanation is given by the scholar David Regal, who felt into Arthur Avalon, the serpent power, that there was some kind of secret secondary or primary, actually, heart chakra behind the heart, like a back door. And it had
Yeah.
8 petals, just like the historical or legendary kingdom of Shambhala has 8 main quadrants. So for him, Shambhala is this kind of life, essential life, not only of the Earth, but of the solar system, of the galaxy, of the whole universe. It's a fractal, it's a synthesis of life that surges through our hearts. So Shambhala basically is everywhere. It is the essential core, the essential life of any single sphere. Like Voltaire said, like the one is a center that has no circumference, but is basically everywhere. So that is how I feel Shambhala on the first aspect. I also like dig quite a lot into especially Alice Bailey, the Rurish, Bruce Lyon, and I feel there is also this idea of Shambhala as one of the 3 aspects of this planetary being that is Earth. And this could be like then this kind of spirit aspect where we can have the Anima Mundi as the word soul, and we can have humanity as a sort of personality of this planet. And so within this, it could be considered as a kind of dominant energy that is driving the evolution of this planet, so the life of this planet. And it has been pictured like mainly, according to my knowledge, through the Kala Chakra Tantra, it has been portrayed as a kind of mystical kingdom that would have been on various places in the world, actually, just like the poles can switch. Shambhala would have been originally located as the temple of Ibis, I don't know how you pronounce it, but at the core of Latin South America. And I will come back to this later on because it's related to the trip we're gonna do. And also is associated with the kingdom with the a potential location in the desert of Gobi. But again, many scholars, many explorers, many beings were in search for Shambhala on various periods of time, and that's why maybe we can find it almost everywhere at the center of everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And yeah, to conclude, and more on a kind of energetic and inner level, I would just feel like it's this energy of will, the will to evolve, the will to be, the will to love, the will to manifest, but essentially an energy of will that I feel some kind of an essential component of the world soul that sometimes we have maybe perceived as really in this all-enveloping aspect, and it is, but there is also a kind of more striking evolutionary lightning bolts, Vajra coming through throughout the soul that I feel is associated also with the will aspect of Shambhala.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, that was a great conclusion, or like, summary of Shambhala. Thank you so much. And I want to touch on you. You mentioned twice the Anima Mundi. How do you feel is that region of Ladakh and Zanskar vibrating that frequency of the Anima Mundi?
This brings in me a lot of emotion actually. I feel it's like the image would be like the soul of us out breathe and in breathe there, like an image of a kind of mountain and stupa that will be inhaling energy and out breathing energies. It's like it's the place where actually I feel I think the Indian tectonic plates really hit the Eurasian plates. And so there is such a mixture of crystals, metals, gases, herbs, whatever. So there is such a refined and potent energy. So I feel it's a blessed place for any great soul to express in. So my feeling is like, and we have some readings of that, for example, in the first round of teaching from Elena Blavatsky, some great souls may have chosen such kind of places, at the same time remote, pure, full of energetics, full of really practical reasons to be there, because all of this history, or maybe all of this geology and so forth. So I feel it's a place where great lamas can just have a really peaceful existence, but nonetheless glancing into the world and somehow supporting its evolution. It's a bit like the prophecy of Shambhala from I don't have the word from this writer who wrote also the it's a triptych. I don't know if you know, like he was picturing Shambhala as a kind of council of sages that were looking at the affairs of the world and basically just streaming the energy of life so that the best
Yeah,
could come out of it,
yeah.
in full respect of the free will, but supporting with their energy. So this is, I feel, one of the aspects of the Ladakh relation to the world soul is I feel it's a heaven, it's a protected place for such currents to flow into the world.
Thank you. Yeah, and I can feel also when you were speaking in the beginning, you said that there is this physically through the waterways, but also like this energetic stream coming down from Kailash, which is said to be the crown chakra of the earth, and that is like when we go like to the teachings, kind of like the full enlightenment. And so I can completely see these what you just described, that the lama is like sitting there in sacred meditation and almost like steering the world outcome from there, in such a peace and connection from that that depth of the connection to the core of the earth and to everything, which is just so fundamentally different to how the rulers of the world today act. So it's a beautiful picture. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. If I can rebound on that, I feel you bring in such a beautiful symbology, because if we look at the Mount Kailash from the above, we are mainly four streams living from it: Brahmaputra, Ganges, Indus, and Yellow River, which basically is the symbol for Earth, a point of life in the core, and the cross,
The cross.
this kind of
Yeah.
reach all around. That's what we can see if we go on Google Earth or whatever. So Kailash as the axis mundi is also bringing this idea of that maybe humanity is awakening to another law. Maybe we have developed, and the whole kingdoms have developed, this kind of law of intelligence or economy and the right distribution of energy and prana and whatever throughout the various kingdoms. We are maybe learning intensively the lesson of the law of attraction and love. But maybe there is also this law of synthesis, and maybe such places right on the axis mundi are also reminding us that we are a cell within a cell, within a cell, within a cell. But just as we can just glance into this kind of throughout this tunnel, throughout the source life, also when we do that, the source life can gaze into the world through us. And it's hard to put words into this, but I feel such places as the Kailash are an invitation to try to go towards this the third law.
Yeah, completely. And before we came together to this interview, you also let me read some of the transmissions that you like received or channeled during such a trip. And you know what struck me was that it seems that this region in particular just opens people up for this really universal and all encompassing like love that is almost like a consciousness and that constant flow of love as a frequency streaming through one. So I would love to for you to speak a little bit about your experience.
And first of all, thank you for your words, because they transmit exactly what you were sharing around this relation between Ladakh and the world soul. I feel the words and what you just transmitted is exactly the stream of the world soul coming through. What I how you presented myself to be, at least. And yeah, so I was on Google Earth preparing another trip, another exploration, because I feel like behind this valley there could be some kind of portal or whatever. And I was basically in May and for a trip in July, August, preparing myself at home. And then I was hovering around the mouse around the above the Kailash. And then like I felt this kind of pressure. I know like when something is important is going to happen, you know? Oh, okay. And I just had this sort of impression that as the poles are moving, as some specific lines where many temples incarnated is somehow shifting, maybe something had shifted from the Kailash area towards someplace else. And I just intuitively closing my eyes, the mouse, and I opened. It was Ladakh. It was the core of Zanskar, and it was a tiny red dot. So I zoom, and it was a red lake.
Oh,
And I
wow.
saw that it was completely remote and really difficult to access. But I just took a picture of it in my head and went on preparing the trip. And then we arrived for a 14 days trek to make a Kora of the Zanskar range with my wife and a close friend, a guide, some donkeys. And we begin our trip, and we are trapped in a gorge called Shiakong. And we stay for 3 days instead of 1 week, because we basically experience the effects of the climate change. Finally out, but we are late. And we begin to rush down on our itinerary because, you know, we have a itinerary and so forth. And then life makes it more clear and stop us in Linksted, so at the southern point of the trip. And this time we listen. We don't go through another mess, and we just go back. So it was a bit difficult, but there was kind of sparkle that lit in me. It's like, oh, maybe we get back and have a chance to see that red lake. And then we arrive, and the villagers that in Potoksa, they say, oh, you never find that lake, you know. Oh, and married women can find that lake. Oh, there are ghosts, and oh, so a lot of stories to
Oh,
basically
really?
prevent us from
But
going.
the locals knew about this lake.
The locals knew that it was a really ancient Tibetan way 1,000 years ago, and that it had been abandoned for some reason, maybe
Ah,
some
okay.
reason protected by some stories. I don't
Yeah.
know. So the valley was somehow, yeah, protected, but nonetheless, early morning, we just take our pack lunch and we enter that, the three of us plus our guide. Uh, it was the 1st of August, so Lamas, or also a Tibetan Buddhist festival.
Mm-hmm.
And we arrive, we walk, and by 10 o'clock, we are a bit hungry. Our bodies need to eat, but all our packed lunch have rotten. So we don't eat, but
Oh
only our
no.
friend eat. weird because the Nepali chief was just perfect. He eats, and half an hour after, he has to come back to the base camp, completely destroyed by what he has eaten. So we continue relying on water and fresh air, and we continue, and it's long, and we begin to wonder if we're ever gonna find the lake. At
Mm-hmm.
moments at like almost 4 in the afternoon, and we had been walking since the morning, my wife tells me like, I don't know how you intend we get out of this valley before the night, but it begins to be really late. I feel I did all I could, but I must now go back. So it was really, but I knew I had to continue. So I blessed her, and she began her journey back. And I went up with the guide to try to find the Red Lake. And at what moment I heard Olive, Olive, and it was Namgyal, and I arrived close to him, and there was this lake, and then no word can match what we lived and saw and felt and whatever. It was an amount of purity. Was the lake was red, is red, the rocks black, and a lot of glacier white. So we had the three colors of alchemy,
Wow.
purity and intensivity. It felt like human presence was not adequate in this place. Really, that's what
Mm.
I felt. So we were really silent, etc. There was even on a glacier, I have a picture of it. It was like the Turin Shroud or the Holy Face or something, like if there was a face, etc. So more than inhabited land, like I can't describe with words. At one moment, my arrogance take the lead, and as we rise up to get back, I feel the need to say, "Hey, Jule Marpozzo," like, "Hey, salutation, Red Lake." And at that moment, ah, like there is a lightning strike right in the heart. I feel like I'm dying. So I turn to Namgyal and say, because we were really high also.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and said, "No, it's not altitude. We have to run down. Olive, don't think, run." We,
Ah.
I don't know what he had perceived or understood or whatever, but we just begin to run down, pa, 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 pa. And we arrive where we had left many of our luggage, the guitar, the back lunch, whatever. And there, my wife had designed with tiny red uh, red stones a heart. And
Hmm.
suddenly, I watch as this hurt, and I'm dissolved, I'm destroyed by a wave of gigantic love that is non-human, that is like to say completely universal. I just begin to weep. I look at him, he looks at me, a bit like what's happening. And then began maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours of layers and layers and layers of the self dissolving, exploding
Hmm.
love. And there
Wow.
was this one mantra, only one thing was there in consciousness was all is there. Like if all the quests and studies and whatever I had done before was this time was over. Like everything I had been searching outward was to be left alone. It was all inside. Like if everything in this valley, in this peculiar moment, was filled with grace and divine, and there was absolutely nothing to search. Like if the love I was sharing with my wife was all inclusive of all hues of love, etc. I was weeping, running, crying,
All
and
at the same time.
all at the same time. And yeah, everything was apparent. Like it was like if all the fractals of the lights, the soul breathing, it was a living experience of being actually, I feel one with the earth and with earth love. It's hard to put words that are adequate, but eventually we arrive and meet Amandine just at the entrance of the valley, and that closed such a yeah, something that has been, I don't know, such a momentous happening that I can say that it's like a complete change of perspective, league, energetics, whatever. And since then, I feel like it has taken the study, exploration, research into like application.
Mm.
Apply now,
Embodiment. Hmm.
embody, apply, all is there. So yeah, like a huge return to simplicity and a huge lesson learned on arrogance too.
Well,
Respect the land.
I mean, I can imagine that it was obviously not so funny in that moment. Probably also actually quite, yeah, exhausting, if not even terrifying. But, when we look at these moments and reflect back, and like as you described, like you are this tiny human being in this vast, majestic landscape on the mountains, and you're actually not even supposed to be there. Yeah, I mean, there is a good sense of humor also that helps us to put everything into perspective and to really perceive us as still as this fractal of the all. So thank you for sharing that humble experience with us. Wow. It really, I can really feel the vibrancy coming from this place, And you are also taking another expedition back this year. Is that right? Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, like since 2012, we have not been able to go there for a beautiful reason. A young boy of now 8-year-old called Mathieu. And I feel he and a young girl who was born a few months ago are the driving force behind their parents to organize this because it feels like really tricky and challenging, but can we leave
Hmm.
all the hues of this land, of our own mystery, of what it is to be human in this period of time? Can we leave that as fathers, mothers, children? Can we somehow circulate this energy of which is a symbol of this kind of trinity, but how is it running into the now for yeah, for what we call a sangha of families, like, and so taking this sangha of family on the same kind of round trip but with different flavors,
Hmm.
glaciers, but we will pass by the valley of the Red Lake. We will have a tremendous trek of going from the Kashmir Ridge up to Lamayuru. Lamayuru is such an extraordinary place where the great sage Naropa somehow unveiled and created the first Gompa there on a specific geologic point where it's only, I think, one of the 2 points on the earth where the lowest part of the crust has been put at 4,000 meters high.
Oh.
And so it is like, the Fontaine or something, like it's a direct
Yeah.
mantle.
Yeah.
So it's and it will be that somehow the conclusion of our common trek. And we will try to have some kind of really beautiful articulation, just like I show you love to do as I understand your work, but going from these moments where, for example, the men are together and are diving into some deep aspect of this, another when we are between couples, another when we are with our children or the children are together. And we will also just dive really into the land and communion with the locals, communion with each path, each little stone, giving some spaciousness to really inquire that little valley or that lake, etc. So I feel it will be like, I hope this kind of dissolution we lived into this valley, but a dissolution as a family
Mm.
uh, into the earth, into this land, into the Anima Mundi that is so alive there. So journey it will be, and also I feel a deep transformational journey and inquiry of, can we reinvent the archetypes of family?
Yeah.
I think so many of us have been like working on challenges of how I grew up, and some issues with parents or whatever. But I feel like there is a love. The energetics of these times, I feel, are revealing here at last this idea of home temple. When I feel into the energetics between my wife, my son, allies, guidance, I, I feel, I don't know, there is a kind of so tender and so powerful reason to be here together. There is such a soul synergy. There is such a kind of assembly on the path that somehow is a reunion, like if we were all converging to that oneness out of all the hues of humanness, human experience, how the tenderness of parent-child relation, the tenderness between a couple, our common soul drive, the mystery at the core of us. And I feel that that's an inquiry that's not falling into any of this layer and restraining to any of this layer, but what happens if we manage to be fully alive and present at each stage? What
Mm.
would be this kind of core of the triangle vibrating?
Yeah, yeah. Wow, it's a big and a courageous task. And I feel that, you know, in the way how you describe it, it seems very simple. And that's what I like about it. Because I guess that many people might back away because they feel it's too overwhelming. So yeah, thank you for doing the work that you do.
And thank you. And I feel in the laughter and the joy and the simplicity of a child is a huge, huge key, I hope, to this journey, because it's exactly the posture in which I feel I'm in this journey is really the awe for the beauty of this land and the awe for the chance we have to be alive in this period of time. And that's all. Let's play.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's play. I love that. And also just sending out a call because I know that you are open also to take on or like bring other people to the region. So if this is something that you have always felt inspired to go to, or now that you heard Olivier talk, feel really a vibrancy at the core of your being, then please reach out to him and inquire about the trip to the Ladakh region. Is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience?
No, what just the word that was coming is also this idea of simplicity and synthesis of the Ladakhi people, because in July we have a salutation, we have thank you also, so we have one word that is at the same time many words and just a greeting and a gratitude word. So that's my feeling right now.
And say that again. What is it?
July,
Julie.
July.
Mm.
Local language is such a beautiful music to hear when you're on the land. Actually, it feels like it's really what plugs the DNA to the land. So we'll make sure we have some beautiful listening to that
And you
lore.
speak it fluently?
Uh, I had a few notions back then, but I have to start all over again.
It'll come back. Like once, yeah, once
Yeah.
you put your flesh on the ground,
Yeah.
it'll strike you. Ah, wow, that was really intense. I feel that we have gone through quite a transformative journey in this short time. So thank you so much, Olivier, for bringing forward the wisdom and the medicine of that place and keeping it alive in your body because it's also always these codes that, yeah, we assemble and then carry with us to places and to people. So thank you
Thank you.
for being the tuning fork for this beautiful piece of land.
Thank you so much for this beautiful and potent invitation and podcast and work that you do. Thank you so much, Julia.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wish you all the best for that upcoming trip.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you feel called to explore the region, then we are popping all the links on how to reach Olivier in the show notes. And I'll see you next time.